The history of attitudes towards sex in China is complex and has been influenced by a variety of cultural, religious, and political factors over thousands of years. In ancient China, sexuality was often viewed within the context of Confucianism, which emphasized hierarchy, duty, and familial piety. Sexuality was primarily seen as a means to produce offspring and continue family lines, with emphasis on chastity, modesty, and fidelity within marriage. Taoism, another influential philosophical tradition, offered a different perspective, emphasizing balance, harmony, and sexual vitality. Taoist texts such as the Tao Te Ching and the Taoist Inner Canon discuss the importance of sexual energy and techniques for cultivating vitality through practices like Qigong and sexual yoga. During certain periods of Chinese history, such as the Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907 CE, there was more openness towards sexuality, with poetry, literature, and art often depicting erotic themes. However, these expressions were often confined to elite circles and were not necessarily representative of broader societal attitudes. The spread of Buddhism in China also had an impact on attitudes towards sex, with Buddhist teachings often promoting celibacy and asceticism as paths to spiritual enlightenment. However, Buddhist monastic communities also acknowledged the realities of human desire and developed guidelines for ethical sexual conduct for lay practitioners. Throughout China's history, there have been various laws and regulations governing sexual behavior, including restrictions on adultery, prostitution, and homosexuality. These laws were often enforced to varying degrees depending on the prevailing social and political climate. In modern times, attitudes towards sex in China have evolved alongside social and economic changes. The Chinese government's approach to sexuality has shifted over time, from strict regulation and censorship during periods like the Cultural Revolution to a more liberal stance in recent decades, with greater openness towards discussions of sexuality in media and education. The sex industry in China today is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon, influenced by various social, economic, and cultural factors. While prostitution is technically illegal in China, it still exists in various forms, operating largely underground or in gray areas of legality. One aspect of the sex industry in China involves traditional forms of prostitution, where sex workers operate in establishments such as karaoke bars, massage parlors, and brothels. These establishments often exist in urban areas and cater to a range of clients, from locals to businessmen and tourists. Another significant aspect of the sex industry in China is the prevalence of online prostitution and escort services. With the rise of the internet and mobile technology, platforms and apps facilitating the exchange of sexual services have become increasingly common. These platforms often operate discreetly and may use euphemistic language to avoid detection. Despite efforts by the Chinese government to combat prostitution and human trafficking, the sex industry continues to thrive in certain regions and cities, driven by factors such as economic inequality, migration, and the demand for sexual services. Additionally, there are concerns about the exploitation and trafficking of women and children for the purposes of commercial sexual exploitation in China. Vulnerable populations, such as migrant workers and ethnic minorities, are particularly at risk of being coerced or forced into the sex industry. In recent years, there has been increased attention and advocacy for the rights and well-being of sex workers in China, with organizations and activists working to improve access to health care, legal protections, and support services for individuals involved in the sex industry. Overall, the history of sex in China reflects a complex interplay of cultural norms, philosophical traditions, religious beliefs, and socio-political factors, shaping attitudes towards sexuality throughout the country's long and diverse history.